Morning. Am I audible? Is audio video clear? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good. Thank you. So basically, I'm on a network which has a power backup. If there's any more fluctuation, I'll switch to the other one. We'll take a call during the class, okay? So don't worry. We'll start at 11 sharp, guys. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Durga and Vartika. Good morning, Bhavani. Good morning, Soumya. By the way, if you have anything else that you want to ask about LR, hope you assume in the last class, I believe we've started seeing an improvement in terms of your performance. Good morning, Shaik, Suhana. I will sit down. Hello everyone, once again a very good morning to all of you. Hope you all are doing great. So we are close to our final CLAT exam. So hoping it to be somewhere around July 3rd week. So today we are going to focus on critical reasoning, guys. That's the topic that we have, and it's from the mock 64. Before we proceed the class, the idea is simple here. We'll discuss the passage, we'll discuss the question types, and whenever we come across a few question types, we will recap the strategies that we have connected with in terms of our classes for each of the question types. We might need to spend a little more time on reading compared to the regular English passages or anything, because here it's a logic part of it. So definitely I'll give you at least 1 minute or 1.5 minutes to recap the nuances in terms of your arguments before we proceed with the lecture. Am I clear with that, guys? And before we proceed, how do you rate your last class? I believe you said you are around 70% of confidence. Majority were in terms of 70% of confidence with critical reasoning. I've seen the performance actually. The highest score was 20. Aman scored it. That's a very good score, Aman. An applause for you. I'll do loudly on behalf of everyone here. And the other scores I've seen are around like 16, 15 and all that. That's fine, but you probably, because you spent a little more time in other areas, you might not be able to give this one little time. But I'm sure, let's see after the class, once we finish our discussion about the questions, let's understand ourselves and give us ourselves a number. What score do you think could have been possible in this section? Because reasoning is that area which is something to do with our inferences and interpretations, and a little lack of attention or lack of focus might cost us 1 mark and also bring us a gift of minus 0.25. That's the usual problem that I see with the students, but I'm still happy with the number of attempts that students have made it. Aman almost made 100% attempts. That's good. I have seen, here's the couple of students, I guess. Shakshita also made around 100% attempts. Then there's yeah, I guess I think I'll have to see. Bhavani also probably made 100. Sorry. Yeah, Bhavani almost attempted 100%, I think. That's good. Some of you have attempted 100%. That's very nice. And hope your accuracy is also coming closer. That's very nice. That means you're able to confidently look at the topic. That's the beauty of it. That's very nice. I guess yeah, these are some students who did a good job. That's a very good. Sure, Shrilta, we'll look at how to increase our accuracy. Before we do that, first of all, we need to understand where we are going wrong and why we are going wrong. Based on that, we can improve our accuracy level. So today we'll discuss about the most close options, why we are going wrong, and then you can tell me if there are any specific options, because let me give you a simple example. Last class, one of the students asked me, actually, I'm repeating that question once again. The point of the student was that I'm able to do the difficult ones right and the easy ones are going wrong. Honestly, easy, medium, difficulty, as you all know, as reasoning students, let's put the regular CLAT and other sections aside. As reasoning students, you all know that easy, medium, difficulty is a subjective parameter, right? I might find it cold and you might feel it hot. It's simple. It's an opinion kind of thing. But the difference here is more in terms of practice. So you'll find something, an easy one, if you're familiar with the strategies and you practice it a lot, and you were able to mark your answer quickly and it turned out to be right. Because there are some questions, you read the question, you feel it easy when you solved it because you were able to mark an answer, but finally it turns out to be wrong. Then you'll feel, oh, this was a difficult question. So something that was an easy one in the exam turns out to be a difficult one once the result comes. That's not fair, right? That's not the right thing to do. So let's understand this interpretations, and more importantly, where are we going wrong? That's a simple understanding that we need to get, because some students might go wrong in conclusion, some students might go wrong in main point, and someone might not be able to get the direct answers. It varies from one individual to another one. Let me also quote you an example of one of my students. He was a CAT student, and he was a student of JNTU actually, pursuing CAT with us, and finally he joined Oracle after graduation. And then probably a couple years later, he went on to do his MBA. So as a student, he was taking his classes for CAT also. And there was an interesting thing that the student told me. A simple grammar concept related to not only but also rules. I'm sure each one of you who's preparing for CLAT knows that. You want my volume to be increased? Is it better, Shrilta? Am I audible now? Yeah, good. So I'm just quoting the example of one of my old students, and he was a CAT student of mine many years ago. I'm sure he probably might have got married by now and has kids also. So many years ago, he was a student, and in the initial years of his mock exams, he was able to do the simple questions like not only but also correctly. I mean, the easiest form of grammar, which was rule-based, was very, very much a correct one for him. But eventually, as he approached his exam and the final exam is approaching, he was able to do the difficult ones right. And the easy one, like not only but also, was turning out to be the wrong ones. He was like confused. Why am I not able to do the easy one? Same problem. What is the problem here? The one problem is you're so focused when the difficult one comes that automatically all your ammunition is like alert and you're acting on it. That is one thing that's happening. And the moment it is easy one, you're relaxed and you're screwing up in terms of your rush or something else. That's one reason of screwing up the easy ones. Second way of screwing up in terms of easy one is there are some students who think that for everything there should be a tricky answer. I mean, if the answer is very evident or something which is very easy, they're doubtful of it. People most commonly say this. I mean, outside, if you get something easily, you don't value it. So this is also, if something looks simple, you doubt it. If science looks simple, you treat it like a trick. But no, it's not necessary like that. It's not necessary that every question should be difficult. There are possible questions which are simple. Remember, over the years, out of 200 questions, if people are able to target 150, 175, do you think 175 questions were difficult? Come on, these are superhuman beings. Then if there are all the 175 were questions difficult, then every year, starting from 2008, the cutoff should have been like 175 plus. No, it was only in 2015 or so, the cutoffs fell drastically. 2015 batch probably, the cutoffs were drastically down compared to other batches. And maybe again in 2017, couple of there was a little dip probably, but otherwise it was mostly around that 150 mark for top NLUs. So what is it? There are some questions which are difficult. Honestly, they are going to be there, but there are easy ones also. Your smart decision should be on making the easy ones right. And when the difficult ones come, hold it so that when you have time, you do it. Another problem that happens with the student is how your psychology is made up. The other day I was just checking. The first question was difficult in one of the levels of paper. And I've seen the accuracy percentage actually. The first question in the first paragraph is something that most of you will start attempting because that is the first paragraph in the section. If you felt the paragraph is easy to do or easy to read, you'll start doing it. But if the first one itself turns out to be difficult, okay, this is how the tone of the entire passage is going to be. You will create an opinion in your mind without your own knowledge. It happens subconsciously. Fight it out. Don't let that happen. Remember, whenever you see a difficult question, always say, this one is difficult, fine. I have 20 more waiting for me. They're going to be easy. You tell yourself that the difficult one is over. Like people say, eat the frog first. So the difficult one is over, the rest is happy time. So you can think of it like that also. Cool your mind, compose your mind, and then attack the exam, you will find it easy, because that is one thing I see students coming into. I mean, that is one area the students face this part of the season. I mean, towards the end they usually do that, and that is a problem that people usually feel. Okay, you expect one type of difficult passages and the other they turn out to be little easy. There's another thing also. People expect a lot of difficult passages, they go into the exam, they see these are too simple, like, oh, these are too simple. Guys, whatever you learned is not going to be a waste. It's going to come in handy for you at some part of your life. So don't worry a lot. One question at a time, that's it. Don't think about final result when you're doing your exam. That is the ultimate thing that I'm going to repeat for the next 30 days whenever my class is going to happen, until you guys remember yourself. Okay, so these are two things for you to make a mistake. Apart from that, for each question, let's start analyzing why we are going wrong. Let's discuss where we are making a mistake, and then probably also our difficulty levels. Okay, let's start with the first passage then. Are we ready? I'm sure you guys are ready already. So I'm starting it off. First one, when compared to other forms of governments, monarchies, dictatorships, democracy is the best form. So you are rating democracy as the best form of government when compared to the other ones. Most of the nations have chosen the way of liberty and equality. Their progress has always been a direct outcome of it. One of the things that makes democracy so effective is that people can decide whom they could be governed with. So you're talking about democracy as the best form of the thing, and the other one you're talking about people choose. So you're coming in the line of choosing the rulers. That's the point that they're trying to come here. Although democracy enjoys much more benefits than any other form of government in this world currently, there have always been doubts in minds of people whether the election is really fair. Now, we started off rating democracy as the best. The next part of it is it's nice people are going to choose, but again, you start keeping some doubts about the fairness in election process. This shows how your content is developing and where your main idea is going on. Although issues like ballot tampering and other illegal measures in developed countries are not considered to influence the verdict of the people, some candidates can have an unfair edge over their competitors in other ways. So, for developed countries, tampering and other things might not be bigger issues because they might have solutions for that. But there are areas where it's possible for unfair ones to be looked into. And again, here you had a point which is more related to develop. The descriptive words sometimes are like extreme words also. You all know that the words like all, most, many, these words are important. That's the role that sometimes these words play also. It is a well-known fact that a great deal of success depends on the publicity. Now you're coming to you talked about unfair advantage, and then you're talking about one particular point, publicity and campaigns they conduct. The better people see, the greater his chance of winning. Although, again a transition word, this may not always be true, and the individual's personal charisma and intellect also play a role in the victory. The magnitude of campaigns can influence the outcome of elections to a large degree. So I might not be a charismatic person, but I went on campaigning every day. It might not help me that much. But a person who's very charismatic, maybe it helps. So I cannot just see that Modi and another opponent of his made same number of campaigns, so both are going to get 50% of the election votes. No, it's not going to be like that. The influence and the campaign, etc., matters. When we consider the fact that person who has greatest financial backing has the best chances of conducting a massive campaign, we can but see that the playing field is no longer equal. Therefore, again the money pattern also has come up. Therefore, the election process may not be fair in this sense. So it's campaign, number of campaigns, then the charisma, then the money aspects. All these things are coming up, and you feel there's not going to be a fair thing in this. Still, in spite of all these issues, democracy is the best variance we witness as of today, and other political forms have more significant drawbacks. So according to the author, even though this is a drawback, there are other forms which are having much more drawbacks, and this is probably acceptable. Let's look into this. Which of the following can be concluded from the author's comparison of democracy with monarchy and dictatorship? Now, this question is more to do with the conclusion question, and 58% of the students have attempted it. So the answer is B by most of you. Very good. So this is a conclusion question. What do we do with conclusion? What do we know about conclusion? Conclusion is basically you have an argument, and what is the argument's end point is. After you read the argument, what do you understand? What is the other person's interpretation? What is it taken by the other person? Right? What is the logical end of the argument? What does the author want us to believe? That's the point that we need to look into. That's how we begin with. Second thing is, whenever these reasoning questions are there, elimination. I mean, each option we need to observe carefully. First one, monarchy is better form of government, happily eliminated, no doubt. Monarchy and dictatorship are worse than democratic form of government. Yes. Okay, yes, it's possible answer. Democracy is a better form of government than monarchy, but falls short when compared to dictatorship is better form. Sorry, this is wrong. Dictatorship is better form than monarchy. Wrong. This question, I would say it's an easy to medium. It's not a difficult one. It's not at all difficult. Mostly I would put it as an easy one only. But even there's only 58% people have attempted it. That shows something. And in the 58%, all 100% did not get it right. Guys, all 100% did not get it right. This is a question. The reason this is an easy to medium, I would say easy, yes, because it's happy for us to eliminate. The reason people might find it difficult is only one thing. You keep seeing this monarchy, dictatorship, democracy, monarchy, dictatorship, democracy. Three things are coming often. And you need to have at the back end from the argument, which one is a better one, which one is not a better one. Second thing, you need to observe the language carefully. That's the only thing. And it's an elimination technique that you have to carefully, because all the options have to be read. And with caution, because the words like better, worse, better, etc. Put it into a degrees of comparison kind of thing. And if you don't interpret it properly, then it's something that's going to be confusing. Okay, it's a super easy question. I also agree with it, but it's a question that you need to be observing carefully. It cannot be something like, I mark the answer. Because let me also say, monarchy and dictatorship are worse than democratic forms of government. There's a little tinge here for the democracy also. The author is not saying democracy is the best. That also can be a thing that is coming up. Let's see if I have to make the same question as a simple, complicated one. I will remove monarchy, dictatorship, and democracy, 3 terms, and just put X, Y, Z. I'll put X, Y, Z as the 3 forms of government. I'll remove the terminology called democracy, dictatorship, and monarchy, and replace it with 3 terms, X, Y, and Z. It becomes a complicated question automatically for you, because in the mind, you definitely know monarchy and dictatorship are difficult ones, and democracy is a good one. You know it. So you don't need to go back and refer with the passage. But the moment I replace it with X, Y, Z, you'll have to remember it each time, go to the passage and check and come back. It's simple. So that's the only thing that makes it a medium one. Otherwise, I would say it's an easy to medium. Whoever attempted it, honestly, coming to my students, whoever attempted it, this should have been a definite, what do you say, a right one. Anybody made a mistake in this? What? Dictatorship is a better form of monarchy government than dictatorship and other. Sorry for the interruption. Dictatorship is a better form of government than monarchy, but falls short on this. Panchajanya, you said C is a trap, but honestly, this is a trap that you made for yourself, Panchajanya. Did we talk about anything where we compared dictatorship and monarchy? And honestly, monarchy is absolute power in the form of one government. Dictatorship is also kind of ruling with a heavy hand type of it. Okay, you didn't mark it, then thank you. I was surprised that you marked it. If anybody felt C as an answer, my simple thing is there's no comparison in the passage between democracy and monarchy. So we cannot establish that relation. Okay, good. So it's an easy one, guys. All of you should have made it right. Let's get to be The next question, which of the following statements, if true, weakens the argument of the author that people can decide whom they would be governed by? Right? Which of the following statements, if true, weakens the argument of the author that people can decide whom they would be governed by? Let me see the options. Ruling NDA government enjoys confidence of only 25% of total eligible voters, yet it has central government because of the comparative vote calculations. So NDA government enjoys only 25% of voters, yet it has government because of comparative vote calculation. I'm sure you've heard this terminology whenever elections happen, right? Total number of people elected for a particular party. I mean, the number of votes they got versus number of seats they won. Ultimately, in elections, in each constituency, who won, that makes the difference. This line is something close to that point of view, right? Number of seats won versus overall people in the state elected, or overall majority of the votes they got. That is the difference that comes out here. And obviously, there's other forms of forming the government also. That's a different aspect. Next one, voting machine tampering and booth capturing is becoming a common phenomena which affects the reliability of uh, election process. Obviously, if that is done at the back end, people's voting doesn't make sense. Even after the representative election, politicians are traded to form government. You have people who are independents and all that, and they are you know what happens. Trading, I think people call the word called horse trading. Some terminology is used for that actually, whenever there's any bills that needs to pass, or whenever they need to prove their confidence, and vote of confidence. That's the terminology that comes in whenever these things come into picture. This line is looked into. So yes, D is an option for you here, and I would say this as a medium question. Flow testing, yeah, thank you. D is a medium question is what I would say, but you can make it right. The reason I'm putting it as a median question is you need to spend time on all the three options, and you need to decide, okay, is each one of this right? There's a high possibility that somebody who saw A marked it and rushed off to the next question. That is also possible. And the moment you see anything to be all of the above or none of the above, we had to be extra cautious. So that extra caution button takes in some extra time. That is the reason we have to put it into the medium one. Otherwise, I would say it's an easy to medium question. And if you heard my classes and if you prepared, you all know we always attack the assumption, and that makes it a thing that my students should definitely mark it right. So yeah, D is the right answer. Very good, guys. Let's get to the 108 question. If the statement, the better people see the candidate, the greater his chances of winning the elections are, is true, which of the following will also be true? The better people see, the greater his chances of winning the elections is true, which of the following is also true? So let's see the options. Candidate who spends the most on publicity has higher chance of winning than the candidate who's spending the least. Some money matters, obviously, that publicity matters also. So let's see that. Candidate with a higher bank balance will always win the election, no matter how good the candidate be. Somebody might be rich, but you also know they can be miser. Having more money does not make someone to be a one to spend, right? Bank balance is not the thing here. Ability to spend is the thing that is the point. So A is more about spending, B is about having. B doesn't make sense. Then Ambani should be the prime minister of this country if that is the thing that we talk, if he gets into the elections. Okay. Next one. Election is a festival of democracy. The financial state of candidate should have much bearing on election outcome. This actually changes the meaning and the point of view also. So next one. If the people of the nation have better eyesight, totally irrelevant one. Answer choice is A, is the right one. Again, you should say, guys, it's an easy question, I think. And as I said, there's no all the above points. And option D, if you see, the moment I started reading, I did not even complete. I could still make an interpretation. So it's an easy one, even on the time consumption. And there's no much clear and doable ones. Only thing, somebody might have spent a little time between A and B if you made it. But the way I would differentiate is spending on publicity. versus having the ability to spend. Here what matters is spending. I might take loan from someone and spend also. That matters rather than me having money or not having money. So 108 answer choice is A. Perfect, guys. Got it? Good, Niranjan. Good to see you. Next one. This is one question that most of us have been stuck with, and we are usually having a difficulty. 109. Medium question, medium range is what is called, and around 58% attempted with an accuracy of 50% or so. Yeah, the answer choice actually is B. It's called an argument actually, right? And let's see this. The person who has the greatest financial massive campaign, we can but see that playing field is no longer equal. Now this point, earlier when we saw the questions in the previous cases, we had 2 points, and the things which turn out to be the facts are something that become our facts or evidences that are given in the passage. They become our premises, and the hidden facts or hidden assumptions, they become our assumptions. Now conclusion turns out to be the end part of it. Now this point, there is a point and there's another counterpoint that they're trying to say. So this one turns out to be argument for that reason. Honestly, I say you might have got confused between these two only because these two are probably eliminated, but some of you might have marked premise also because this one is treated as a premise. So that's the reason people might have made a mistake. Once again, if you want me to repeat it, one thing is premise is something that you take to be as a fact. So something like elections time, money matters a lot, or people need to spend money in election campaigns. That's the thing. People spend money in election campaigns, or people need money for election campaigns. That kind of statement you might be taking like an evidence or a fact type of it. In the hidden part of it, elections time, corporates fund, or political parties gather a lot of money from people, or there's a lot of things that might not be explicitly mentioned, but whoever gets more money is the one is at advantage. That's a hidden part that we would say. Or we might even say that corporates are trying to fund and support the parties that are favorable to them in terms of their manifestos and all that is a hidden kind of thing for us. And then finally we would say they are the parties that have the backing, have positive results. That's the end point that you might go. So that will become the assumption part of it. That there, coming to the conclusion part and argument part, the one thing that I want you to see is most of the examples that we have seen earlier in terms of this question is we had a statement 1 and we had a statement 2. And whenever we had statement 1 and statement 2, that's where we tried to see how each are connected to one another, whether they are turning out to be a premise or a conclusion. Now, when it comes to the conclusion here, in terms of an argument or in terms of any paragraph, it is the end of the logical argument. That is what I want you to believe. The end of the argument. That means the author wants us to believe here. So in the entire argument that we look at it, if you see, your first question was on the conclusion part. The dictatorship is less worse than democracy. That's a conclusion that he has given there. But there's another point of view that you get it if you read the entire argument. That is that democracy, though, is the best form of government compared to the others, it has its own fairness issues when it comes to elections, but still acceptable when come to the other drawbacks for other things. That's the ultimate conclusion that we look into it. So this one I would treat more in terms of the argument rather than the end or the conclusion part of it. I would say this to be a medium to difficult question. There's a high chance of going wrong, and more importantly, there's a high chance of getting stuck and confused. I've seen in the last classes also many a times these question type students are making a mistake with. If you see this question type in the exam, first of all, I don't want you to be worried. Finish other questions and come back to this. That's my suggestions, because once your mood gets scary, I mean, if it's a clear cut premise assumption, go ahead and happily mark it. But if it's a conclusion, inference, or anything else, because I didn't, having an argument kind of thing as an option was a little surprising for me, because argument is something which is about which we have a logical thing to discuss, and we expect it to have little more extra content. But yeah, you may have surprise terms also that you should be cautious about, and don't panic. That's the only thing that I would say. Okay, I hope Shrilta explained all the four options for you there. Let's get to the next one. Following the scheme of passage, which of the following does not fit in the drawbacks of the potential forms? Let's see the options. Other political forms. Drawbacks of other political forms. Okay, no space for voice of dissent or opposition of the government. Okay, you need to be cautious here. Does not fit in the drawback of other political form. Dissent is something you don't have a chance in monarchy, so this is a drawback actually. So this is not my answer. People don't have the option of choosing who they want to be ruled. Monarchy, that is a drawback, right? They don't have an option to choose. Guys, the only reason this question could have gone wrong is this. I don't think there's any issue with the language, because no space for voice of dissent or opposition. This is what happens in dictatorship, right? You can't oppose, and monarchy is also absolute. People don't have the option of choosing. That is what is dictatorship and monarchy. Again, there's no choosing. The next in here will come and form the government. Saiti, just see it. People don't have the option of choosing who they want to be. Which of the following does not fit in drawbacks of other political forms? Honestly, not being able to choose is a drawback of other political form. Periodic process of voting, changing the periodic process of voting, and changing the government every 5 years. This is something that we have possibility with democracy. Monarchy and other things might not have this. Yeah, the scope of active discussion is very less in uh, political spheres. Again, this is something which is a problem with dictatorship and monarchy. So I think the question type, this is the only one that is standing out, right? Obviously a weird question type, probably for you to rephrase it or and understand it. That makes it from an easy one to a medium one, right? uh, may I know the reason for your confusion? Okay, any other point that you need to be explained other than C? Okay, people don't have the option of choosing. Fine, agreed. I would say this one, as I said, C looked like an answer for me, because ABD were different. Honestly, to say, to start with, let me talk about the first time when I looked at this question, what actually happens. I looked at as a question, which of the following does not fit. Got it, guys? I looked at as a question, which of the following does not fit in the drawbacks of other political forms. Now, following the scheme of the passage, okay? In terms of the question, generally we know that dictatorship doesn't have the right to choose. Dictatorship doesn't have elections. Monarchy doesn't have elections. Dictatorship doesn't have elections, and there's less discussion. These are the points that are different. The only possible difference that we have is in terms of election. That also, as a point of view, we know elections are there in this part. Elections are there in, sorry, elections are there in the democratic part, and elections are not there in other parts of the thing. That is a point of view that we have. So we a process of voting and changing the government, so that is a part we know it. Now coming to the things, here we have the drawbacks part of it. Still, democracy is the best variance we witness as of today, and other political forms and the other political forms have more significant drawbacks. Now, you're looking at a drawback where there's something which is an advantage that democracy is having, but the other political forms are not having that as an advantage, right? So here, the issue came up when it was the fairness part of it, fairness in terms of elections, and then democracy is having a disadvantage there. The simple question that I need to put you here: let's assume I'm a dictator rule. I'm a monarch. Let's assume like the kings. Let's take the example of King Krishna Devaraya. Can we say he's a monarch? He's an absolute king. If I have to say he's a king, it's not someone. Can I say he was not elected? People didn't vote. Okay, but was he a good king? He was a good king, right? So were people coming out and telling their problems there? Yes. Now, so because Krishnadevaraya did not get replaced every 5 years due to an election process, did people in that region have some problem? No. Now look at the options. Is having a government that changes 5 years and ability to vote more important? Or there's a government there, but you have an ability to express if you're unhappy? Is that a bigger problem? Second one also turns out to be a thing which was more about choosing only, but C talks about more in terms of voting, changing the government every 5 years. That was more a democratic point of view. It's not something which I would say which is what I should say monarchy or dictatorship point of view. That's the thing that I can say. If I have to eliminate B, yeah, I have to think. Little tricky, yes, but I hope this solved out at least few options for you. So not having an option of choosing doesn't, not having the election process according to them is not one of their biggest drawback, honestly. So every 5 years you need a government to be changed. Every 5 years you need some kind of voting to happen. That's not their biggest of the problems, because the biggest of the problems are the other things. Okay, so comparing B and C, I would say B is more in terms of close to the democratic options, and you're talking about the other issues like whether it's a fairness part of it or other bigger issues with monarchy and things. So I prefer to go with C over the B one. Okay, that's one thing that I could say. Uh, didn't get it, Shrilta. No, I didn't talk, Lakshmi. Don't worry. I was trying to see a doubt of Shrilta posed actually. So there's a confusion between B and C. Fine. What I'll do is I'll think around and give you a better version. I hope A and D are at least eliminated for you guys now. Satisfied with A and D to be a better eliminated options? Good. A and D are happily eliminated. Now your confusion is between B and C. As I said, my version of seeing B and C, if I were a student and looking at the example, people don't have option of choosing who they want to be ruled. That is a simple statement in B. And the other station is problem is periodic process of voting, changing the government every 5 years. This is more in terms of you have to change every 5 years. Even if I have to look at it, whether you change it every 5 years or 10 years, if you're able to change, that's not a bigger problem. So I would say B as a bigger problem, this one as a lesser bigger problem. That's another way of myself to look into this question. Okay, assuming that's solving the process, I'm moving on to the next question. And if we are still stuck, Srilta, I'll redo this question for you at the end. So I think we probably should rate the 110 one as a difficult question. Overall rating, let's see this passage. Passage 1, I would say, if we see the passage per se, is it easy to read? Yes, it's easy to read. There's no complications. Coming to the questions per se, let's see which questions do you rate to be tricky, I guess. Maybe you'll read 109 and 10 to be tricky, guys. 109 and 10 are tricky. So your 6, 7, 8 are either easy to medium. With observation, you could do it. So at least 3 out of 5 questions could be possible for you in this paragraph, right? And coming to 109 and 110, maybe I would put 110 to be little better off for avoiding confusion than 109, or whichever you guys are comfortable. One of them is little less confusing than the other, but yeah. 2 tricky ones and 3 easier ones for sure. So that puts that passage. Let's move on to the next one. (111 to 115). BC. Despite significant corporate commitment to the advancement of women's careers, progress appears to have stalled. Women account for 53% of entry-level professional employees in the largest US industrial corporations, but they hold only 37% of the middle managerial positions, 28% of vice president, 14% of the seats in executive. So there's a decline that we see it. At every step, the odds of advancement for women, men are twice that men, nearly 4 times as men as women large companies make for the CEOs. Okay, so basically as we climb up the ladder, there are more men than the women. That's a simple thing. We've all heard endless variations on the mindsets that set up women for failure. She's too aggressive or too passive. Whether the woman is perceived as aggressive or passive, that's different from the judgment a man would face. She often doesn't receive the coaching a man would do to help her assimilate into the company's culture. So the opinions about women, or the way they are measured in terms of the company's culture, it's different. Man is not called aggressive for the same thing, but a woman is. That's the point of view we can look at it. And she doesn't get the good coaching part of it. That means she doesn't have mentors. Suppose I joined as a fresher. If I were a man, maybe I would have got a better counseling, better suggestions in terms of an improvement than if I were a woman. That's the point that is trying to convey. I don't know how to talk to or mentor her. Men tend to sponsor other men, find it hard to build relations with people when they share fewer common interests. So it's the point of interest that you're talking about. And sometimes they are afraid of being close also. If I put a woman in the role and she fails, it means all women can't do it. Mindsets like this inadvertently treat men as individuals and women as representative of their own. What is happening here, that if one woman is not great, you're generalizing it. I think nowadays most people might say that, because if there's a woman as a cabinet minister and she's not doing a good job, then we would say women might not be good for this role. That's the point of view that is being presented at times, which is attributing generalizing the entire thing for the sake of one person. Despite the best intentions of HR departments, experience of women start to diverge from that of their male peers. Less opportunity for growth, unintended performance bias, a lot of performance related standards and partiality levels, lowered ambition gradually, I guess, this point is need to be looked at carefully. Greater satisfaction with staying put. Women actually start out ambitious. Most young women hope to move to next level, and women reach more senior levels that retain that ambition. That said, women also turn down advancement opportunities for varied reasons, ranging from commitments outside work to risk aversion. Aversion means avoid. Um, to stay put in roles with personal meaning. In addition, mothers with more than one child are much more satisfied with staying put, though they remain highly confident about their performance and abilities. This is a word that I need you to be looking at cautiously, because they're confident about performances, some women, and your lowered ambition. These two kind of go contradictory. So there was a question there. So you have to observe carefully. I hope the passage is pretty much clear. You're talking about women and their roles as they progress. The number of people taking up senior roles, number of people in the boardroom is declining. One is the perception of men. Two, they are not getting enough training. Three, the kind of personal commitments they have. These are the 3 points. Let's look at the questions now. Which of the following, if true, would be a suitable situation to a manager's response? Men cannot mentor women. So I need to see options, obviously. Let's see. Men would like to meet at an IPL match, while women might prefer to visit an art gallery. So choices are different. So this option kind of suggests me that they have different choices. I think we did have share fewer common interests. When we read the question, probably it might be blank for you, but as you see, this one talks about the interests of people. Now, at a restaurant, a man may order high calorie dish while a woman stick to low calorie dish. Women have more responsibilities at home. Women do not take feedback positively. So this question, let me see about your 111 accuracy percentage. 53% students have attempted, but there's a drop in accuracy. Now let's look at it. The question as we start doing and as we see the first option, this should hint us that we talked about common interests. That's the point that we do need to take. Now coming to the feedback, women don't take feedback. I think there was nowhere any line which was about women taking feedback, or there was no line also which says you need to be more cautious in terms of giving feedback to women. So this statement is eliminated. Okay. Coming to the statement, women have more responsibilities at home. Okay. Women have more responsibility at home. Agreed. But I'm not talking about a woman who decided to go to work or who decided to stay at home. I'm talking about a man who is at work versus a woman at work. Got it? A woman at work and a man at work. That is a comparison that I'm doing. This option is more relevant to a woman at home versus a woman at work. If she is not at work, how do I mentor her? There's no scope of mentoring only. So this option will be eliminated for that reason. Got it? Now coming to this, I'm sure most students, if you, is it clear guys? C and D are gone. According to me, when I saw this question, honestly, I felt students might have made a mistake between A and B. Are there anyone who made a mistake between A and B? If you made a mistake of C, that was a trap, guys. It clearly shows you didn't work out. I mean, it was a trap for you, which you happily fell actually. If you looked at D as an answer choice, that is your perception. You took it from outside the paragraph's limit. D is outside paragraph limits. C is you fell for a trap happily. Now A and B are close option. Let me honestly say, I also saw A and B. When I read the first statement, the way mind processes, I'm telling you here. When I saw the first option, I would say, okay, one is IPL, one is art gallery, two different things. And we had a choices and interests. So this can be my answer. That was the first thing that I put myself, and then I moved to the second option. Then a man ordered higher calorie dish and the woman ordered lower calorie dish. Okay, two different choices again. This also came here. Now later option C and D were eliminated for me. Then what I did, I came back again to A and B to understand whether I should go for A and B. I had to find a reason why I should choose A over B. The simple answer, in the case of A, let's assume one is in IPL match and other one is art gallery. Is there any possibility of them to talk to each other? No. But I'm at the same restaurant. I'm at the same table of restaurant. He is eating non-veg and I'm eating veg. Can I still talk? Yes. I can still talk. I can still talk. I can still be groomed. Like, for instance, if I have to be taught about how to behave with senior managers when you go out for meetings, or if I have to be taught about how to use even a, I mean, I'm going to give a silly example, a fork and a spoon or a knife, I can still be taught because I'm at the same table. I can still communicate about anything. I can still talk about work, about anything. My food is a different choice here, but still we are at the same restaurant. Got it, guys? So that makes A as a strong answer over B. Am I clear? So I would say it's a medium question, not an easy one, not a difficult one, but the trap one is A and B. And students who are in CD, yes, you're putting efforts, guys, but you're going in wrong direction. Let's look at the next one. What is the logical error in the thinking? If I put a man in that role and she fails, it will set back all women. This is something that I feel sometimes about our finance minister, because finance minister, when she comes and gives some kind of announcement, automatically stock market reacts, and probably she's looked at more a finance minister as a lady, as a finance minister, than a finance minister at general times. That's a problem that we usually face, and we don't need that kind of scenario. Okay. So let's look at the question. It is more a generalizing question. It's not a sample size question. Okay, so the answer choice should be answer choice here should be, let's give me here. Sorry, I'm just distracted with something else, guys. The thinking is based on small sample size, wrong. Thinking is based on incomplete survey, no. The thinking generalizes the performance of one woman. Yeah, makes sense. The thinking accepts the opinion of many as final opinion, no. This is one woman to all. So that's a very clear-cut generalization. This should be an easy question. Okay. Pretty easy question, no doubts on that. Sorry. Yeah, 111 is A, guys. 111 is A and 112 is C. Okay. 111 is A, 112 is C. Let's get to 113. Which of the following, if true, would discourage corporates in their commitment towards women's career advancement? Which of the following would discourage corporates in their commitment towards women career? The first one, the government's policy of free education is not advantageous to girl child. This one is something irrelevant. Population of women is lower than men. If still they are at work, I don't have a problem there. So if they're at work, that is what I don't need, the overall population of the country. I just need to know how many women are at work. And this one is irrelevant. Next one. Women retire at an early age from job or shift jobs frequently as per their family needs. Women have to go through rigorous interview and selection process to get a job. If women have to go through rigorous interview, that's a company's failure. I mean, you're choosing women differently and men differently. That's the point of view that you have here. But C is a better answer choice for you. C is a better answer choice for you. Okay, guys? Any questions there? Did I miss something? 113 is C, guys. Oh, I marked 114. Yes, there's something. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, there was something here. So 114 is B, guys. Okay. Which of the following is not a reason for the woman turning down the advancement opportunities in their career as mentioned in the passage? 114 answer choice is B. Thank you for correcting, Shrilta. Yeah. Which of the following is not a reason for the woman turning down advancement opportunities in their career as mentioned in the passage? I would rate this one as a little tricky question because the answer choice is B, because you will fall for it. How many of you got it right? How many of you got it wrong, by the way? Let me see that. Oh, I'm impressed. This was a nice accuracy question. Then I was wrong. I thought you guys would go wrong with this because there was a word about ambition there. Got it right? Yeah, that's what it is. Good attempts, Simon. Impressive, guys. This was a question where I felt you need to read carefully, probably. I thought students might make a mistake because of the less ambitious part, because there was a line that I marked earlier, if you remember, lowered ambition. So from there, people might look into this as a point. But if you look at the last line, they're still confident. They're still confident. That word is also there. So they're still confident, but it's not about their ambition part of it. It's their other reasons. They're averse to taking risk positions. That's a point that we had. They prefer to stay in role, which means personal satisfaction. There might be a student who might think personal meaning is there and personal satisfaction is there. Is it a same word or a different word? That could be a reason for you to get confused here. Due to non-work commitments, yes, family time, that's again personal meaning and personal satisfaction. This is the risk option which is there, and these are two connected to somehow indirectly about personal demands or commitments. So it's not about her ambition, that she's not having ambition. Here is something to do with confidence or other angles also. It's not about that as a main reason. So other reasons are more stronger here in terms of their thing. That's the reason I'm putting at B as a answer choice. And I would rate it as a medium to difficult question because I definitely feel this is a trap. Because lowered ambition is a clear-cut word we had, and the author intentionally probably put it there. But the way the question is pictured, it is the later part of the question. They are turning down growth opportunities. The reason to turn down growth opportunities is the question here. They want to avoid risk, or they want to be happy with what they have, which is the satisfaction with the roles they have, or because of their family requirements. It's not that they don't want to do job or anything else. So that's the point that is a little thing here that makes it a little cunning question, I would say. And maybe, Aman, that's the reason you might have, if you got it right, I think you should be right with this question. If anybody got wrong, I would say that could be the reason for us to be looking at the thing. And if we observe, this is the second question that in the passage, even the first one, you got it wrong. Okay, got it wrong. If you got this one wrong, I don't think I will find fault with you guys. This one is something that you can go wrong with. But one thing I could say, if we observe the previous question and all, there is a point in the paragraph. There's a point in the paragraph somewhere here, and it turns out to be one of our options. But our question is coming around from these lines. I mean, the later part of the data. So somehow we are making this point as one of our answers. I hope, Aman, are you able to interpret what I'm trying to suggest here? So unlike a single passage where you have a single argument and you're able to pinpoint it, this is a full passage. So you need to more carefully locate the location of your argument. That's a point that I would like you to take back from this particular question, because since the trap that we fell into. Okay, a medium to difficult question for me, according to me, definitely a medium to difficult question. Which of the following inferences couldn't be drawn from the passage? Women face more difficulty adjusting to the culture than men due to insufficient guidance. Happily, we deduct this because they don't get enough support. Women are judged more critically for every action they are judged. Seniors mentor men easily but hesitate when it comes to women. Women are not suited for senior management roles. This is not something we can infer. I mean, that should be our answer. Sorry. That should be an answer. And this is not something we can infer. All the other things we can infer there. So this one is not inferred. Again, it will become a confusing one only because of not. The reason I make these not ones confusing is not that the options are difficult. What happens in the process of doing questions in the exam, we are so much used for the inferred one, the not one, while reading you will miss it out. That is one mistake we do it. No, you are a careful student, you are attentive one, and you read it. But as we start solving the options, you forget that there's a not aspect. Somewhere you will miss it out. And then you mark something as an answer. That's something that the second one is something that I've seen happen as a mistake with those students who practiced a lot. I mean, they practiced enough, they're cautious enough to observe the not part of it, but they miss out this point. Durga wants to know why not me. Women are judged more critically for every action. Let me ask you, Durga, when woman does a mistake, the entire community of women are criticized. Um, when men did something wrong, they are not equally criticized like that. So, isn't she criticized a lot? Can I not say B is wrong for that reason? So, I would go with 115B for that reason. Clear? Got it. So, Chekshita wants 111 again. Chekshita, I think, which options, please? If you could tell me, I can repeat it. Overall, this is a passage which needs a little attention. How many questions do you think you guys can say easy ones? For me, 114 is one thing that I would probably put. 111 is medium, 112 is medium. 113 is also, I would say, medium. I would put 114 as a difficult one, actually. And 115 is also medium. Easy to medium, all. And other ones. Okay, so yeah, at least 3 to 4 you could solve it, guys. 3 to 4 you could solve it. And others, you could try at least 3. Happily solve 3. 1 at least is a bonus one. 1 allowed to do mistake. See, I'm a nice teacher. I can allow you to make mistakes also. So 1 mistake is okay for me in this question. I'm just taking a little time to explain to Chekshita once again. The questions versus A and D. Chekisha, I just want to repeat once again. If you are making a point, women don't take feedback positively. Which of the following, if true, could be a situation to a manager's response? Men cannot mentor women. It's a concept about mentoring that you had. And when you look at that point, I don't know how to talk or mentor her. Men tend to sponsor other men, find it hard to build relations because they have fewer common interests and sometimes are nervous about forging a close relationship. Here, the point that you had connected to that entire argument was about not having common interests, and they are little uh, afraid of being too friendly with women because there's a society factor that comes in when a man and woman are close. That kind of hint is coming up here. Women don't take positive feedback, or women don't take positive feedback. If that was a point, honestly, that would have been a bigger question because they would never be able to promote women to senior roles and other things. Here, the point of view was different. The question was entirely on common interests. And as I said, B is not the answer because eating at a restaurant is a common interest here, not what food is eaten, guys. Eating at a restaurant is a common interest, not what is eaten. That is the difference that we have. Am I clear? Is that understood or do you agree? Okay, good. Please move on to the next question. Sorry, my this. Next one, guys. Okay, guys. The fact that superior service can generate a competitive advantage for company does not mean that every attempt at improving service will create such an advantage. Investments in service like those in production and distribution must be balanced against the other types of investments on the basis of direct tangible benefits such as cost reduction and increased revenues. If the company is already effectively on par with its competitors because it provides service and that avoids a damaging reputation and keeps customers from leaving at an unacceptable rate, then investment in higher service levels may be wasted since service is a deciding factor for customers only in extreme situations. This truth was not apparent to one regional bank, which failed to improve its competitive position despite its investment in reducing the time a customer had to wait for a teller. Manager did not recognize level of customer inertia in terms of changing or switching branches, nor did they analyze their service improvement to determine whether it would attract new customers. The only merit of improvement was it was easy to say. What did you understand from this passage? Was it an easy one or a difficult one? How do you rate it? Okay, difficult one. I would probably to say two questions are difficult. Passage wise, it was okay. It was not very difficult to read and understand. But questions wise, I would say it was little difficult. Couple questions were difficult compared to the previous one. This was something that I would rate it a little difficult, not because it's difficult to read or understand, but there's some nuance that we expected you to have here. Basically, the idea of understanding what you mean by an investment, that's something, if you got it, then it would have been an easier one. If you miss that nuance, it will become a mistake. That's a simple thing. So let's get to the first thing. What is the main point that you're trying to convey? What do you think is the main point in this argument? I mean, what is the argument based about? You had a discussion about some kind of investments in the first paragraph, and then you had a discussion about a regional bank and how the service sector related to time factor is coming into picture. Even if you did not understand the first paragraph properly, the second paragraph would probably fit in as a possible example to reiterate it, right? So what do you think? What is the main idea? I know that is the first question, but I don't want to go from the options of the first question because the options of first questions make it difficult. I guess that's the reason others might have said it's a difficult one. First question becomes difficult not because of the question, it becomes difficult because of the options. What do you think? Let's not look at the options, guys. What do you understand? We understand that whenever you are making an investment, think before you invest if that investment is really going to have an impact that you are expecting it to have an impact. That's a simple message that we take from this, because you thought of reducing timeline, but that is not something that will bring you more customers. That's a simple thing that probably the business should have understood. Got it? Am I clear there? Do you want me to repeat the passage once again, or can I proceed to questions? Proceed. Okay, fine. So let's look at the first line. The primary purpose of the passage is to. Whenever we look at the primary purpose of the passage, as we all know, we need to look at it more carefully in terms of answers for main idea. Where do we get our main idea? We get our main idea from the first line, last line, repeated idea. That is something that we looked at it. Now let's see. The fact that superior service can give a competitive advantage for a company doesn't mean that every attempt at improving service will create such an advantage. You're talking about service kind of change, service level changes, and if every service level is going to give us expected benefit, that's the point that we have. And when you're making investments in service, make sure that they create that impact. Next one is the example related to the service. Let's see the thing. Contrast possible outcome of a type of business investment Suggest more careful evaluation of a type of business investment. Illustrate various types in various ways in which a type of business investment could fail to enhance revenues. Criticize the way in which managers analyze the costs and benefits of business investment. Now, if you observe this question, it would have been an easy one if there was only one option with the word business investment. But now, the concept of business investments is not something that you can use as an elimination criteria, because some of us in a rush we only take nouns, we only pick up those factual data that we can get. Business investment is in your mind, but every option is having a business investment. So how do I decide? Now comes the picture, how we analyze each of the options. Let's look at it. First one, contrast possible outcomes of a type of business investment. I made one investment and then I'm discussing these are the positives in terms of this investment and these are the negatives in terms of this investment. Do you see something like that? Yes or no? That's the first point. Suggest more careful evaluation of a type of business investment. Suppose you're investing in service sector in a particular aspect, you need to be more careful in terms of evaluating it, whether it's going to work or not. Evaluate it properly. That is a term that we had. This may be my answer. Because you're suggesting only, you're not saying anything else, because it's not necessary that every attempt will give you an advantage. Whenever you do that, you need to balance and weigh in terms of opportunities that it creates. That's a point that we have. So whenever you make a business investment, be more careful, be evaluate properly so that the benefit that you expect is happening. That's what is suggested in the example. Let's see the next one. Illustrate various ways in which a type of business investment could fail to enhance revenues. Now, those who have chosen illustrate, the reason you might have chosen here illustrate is because of an example available. The moment it is an illustration, it's usually counted to be close to examples or an explanation type of it. You might be looking at that point of view, which is the second paragraph. But explain various ways in which a type of investment could fail to enhance revenues. Now again, if I have to portray this thing in terms of a flow chart, this is my business investment and I have way number 1, way number 2, way number 3, way number 4. These are the 4 ways in which my business might fail. That is explained here. Now Chekshita, I think somebody said C. So whoever said C, do you think it looks like that? Do you think your passage looks like that? The passage looks like I made an investment, see if it's going to be a right one or wrong one in terms of an impact. This I can't see there. Criticize the way managers tend to analyze costs and benefits on investment is more like you're targeting about how they see costs in terms of investment, how much cost is put in terms of investment. I mean, how much investment is made, how I'm treating this investment, a good one or a bad one, and how I'm studying the benefits of it. Is it how I am analyzing? Is it a good benefit or a bad benefit? That is what it is. Honestly, to say this question, this option, I've actually parked it happily aside because this is not focusing on a particular manager's mistake or somebody's mistake. It's more targeting about when you make investment. This one is more criticizing a particular sector of people and their wrong choices. Yes, there's an example of the manager, but the paragraph is not about any manager's wrong decisions. Got it, guys? So I would put B as a strong answer here over D or C or A. Am I clear? Are you satisfied? Are you clear? Okay. Whoever made a mistake, are you okay now? Aman, do you feel now it's okay? I think you said it's a difficult passage. Somebody said difficult. I'm sorry. I'm good. 117th question. I personally felt this was a little trap and difficult one. What did you feel? I mean, the rating was actually easy, but somehow I don't agree to it because 42% students attempted and only 3% of them got it right. So I would put it as difficult, honestly. The reason is there are two traps here. One is tangibility and the other one is revenue. The moment you see, I'm sure most of you might have marked your answer to be between A and B, but the final answer turned out to be C. Those who are careful readers, you might have taken the first line and said, okay, competitive advantage alone is not enough, the other things. So eliminated D. C, you did not see any word like that. Probably you totally did not even think of C. Tangibility and revenue are two terms that came. Yes, tangibility and revenues are two terms that have come. So A or B, one of the options you might have marked it. Let's look at it. What is a passage about? The passage clearly talks about one thing, guys. If it's whether it is a production industry or a service industry, right? You need to look into the parameters that impact the investments that make. The parameters matter a lot. Okay. I am not saying that the passage doesn't say that just because it's a service industry, you need to focus only on service related areas to get a benefit. Or if it's a product that you need to make, you have to focus only on product related things. You might have to look into other areas also. Because let's say I make a water bottle. I'm a company that makes a water bottle. And every year I kind of keep changing its features. Just because it is a product and I have to improve it, I keep changing its features. The thing is that feature of yours reaching to the market? Or is that feature of yours really important to the market? Or is that feature maybe creating a big revolution in the market that more people are coming towards you? If you see the example that you had in the case of the bank manager, what did he think? I should reduce the waiting time of a person. Now, he thought that it will be a good thing that people will be happy about. But he missed out the point that banks are all about trust and confidence. You believe, you don't put in any, I'm sure these days there are a lot of bank scams also happening. So again, people might have more trust in national banks, or they might be looking into bigger banks, into safe deposits than any local small banks. Because bank is more about trust of a customer versus timeline taken to wait there before a teller is attending a customer. So the trust was more important. That was the reason people were not ready to leave their trust with the old bank to come to this bank, and hence the less time factor is something that they did not affect them much. So they couldn't create an impact. Unlike this, if there was something else, let me give you in the similar situations. ICICI Bank, if I remember, to my memory, ICICI Bank, they usually popularize something like we work from 8 to 8. Honestly, banks were something which were like 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock business. Olden days, if I'm right, if my memory is right, they were like 10 to 4 kind of business, and banks close after a period of time. But this current generations of work culture, where even the online thing did not improve a lot, a bank being open and available after the work hours up to 8 o'clock was something that most people liked. That was a bigger impact one, rather than that was probably something that can make people open banks accounts here. I mean, new accounts, if somebody is thinking of opening a new account, I might go to this bank. That will be a bigger reason for me to go to this bank. Or if I have an existing account in one bank, I might have this bank for my emergency needs. That might still make me come back, but not the waiting time here. So the decisions that were made in terms of service industry that you're making, look into them, weigh them in terms of right parameters that can create impact rather than the wrong parameters. That is what is the answer. So hence C becomes an answer. Now, why is not A or B turning out to be an answer? Whether it is the tangibility of benefit or whether it is the increased revenue, that is something that you're talking only with regards to within the related service, whether it is a low service or a high service. Is it a benefit one or is it a revenue one? That is what you're talking within the service sector, within the same thing. But C is something which is between production and service areas of investments. You're talking about a basis or parameters that you want to consider. So that's the reason to only go for C as an answer. And if somebody needs just a word, yeah, basis is a word that we had there. So your parameters is something that you can consider in terms of your answer choices. What parameters are you taking into picture is what matters a lot, rather than whether you're talking only about within the area bigger one or not. 117, so it's C as an answer. 116B is the answer, guys. Sanjana, do you want a repetition of explanation, or are you asking for an answer? Let's go to the next one, guys. The passage suggests which of the following about service provided by regional bank prior to its investment in the enhancing that service. Okay, I'll come back on that, Sanjana, then. 118 question. The passage suggests which of the following about service provided by regional bank prior to its investment in enhancing that service. So answer choice 118, guys. Easy, medium, difficult. A came already. D comes. Answer choice is A, guys. The reason we take A as an answer choice, if you look at the example part of it, the time factor is not the entire example you looked at it. This bank kind of reduced its time, but the other parameter that was taking care of it is time is not something which is the reason that people will leave their bank and go to another aspect, other bank. People from other banks are not leaving that bank and coming to this bank because of the time parameter. So you can say that even this bank was able to retain its customers before this change. Its time was not becoming a reason for them to lose customers. Got it? If time was a reason for them to lose customers, then improvement in the time factor could have been a beneficial one. Their customers would have stayed back, or they would have got more customers. But that time itself is not a valid reason or valid decision according to us in terms of the change that they made. So it is not a valid decision because it did not create a big impact. It did not create a big impact because it was not a main reason. So we consider it to be a parameter that was not affecting them. So that's the reason A is an answer. A is the answer, guys. I'm not debating on that point. Okay. And if it really need to improve conditions with others, then this change might have caused a benefit. That's the reason I'm not looking at D as a point here. Time is not a factor because of which it's not losing its customers. That is what I would like to take it here. And hence A as a better answer. Next one. So next one, 119. The discussion of the regional bank situation serves which of the following functions within the passage as a whole? It provides an example of the point about investments and service made in the first paragraph. D is the answer. I think this most of you will have happily made it a right answer. It serves an example pretty much. The word you, so I don't think I need to debate on 119. D is a fine one. The author uses the word only in the last statement, most likely to. Now, only according to me, when I started reading, when I was a spectator, when I was a person to read the question, the only advantage that you have is to say that it is easy to say. We take less time is something, we take less time from one person to another person is an easy thing to describe to customers or easy thing to communicate to customers. Like for instance, if I have to say I have a mobile feature, it takes little time for explaining to the customer or explaining the features and all these things. But this is like an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to do or easy thing to impact. That's the only thing that I can suggest out here. That's the point that was said. Let's see this. Highlight the oddity of the service improvement. Emphasize the relatively low value of the investment in service improvement. Distinguish primary attribute of the service improvement from secondary improvements. Single out a certain merit of the service improvement from the other things. Which two options will be happily gone? B is the right answer, guys. Odd is something, what I would say odd. In probability also you got this odds and evens types, right? So something which is not normal, that kind of thing, you could take it. Okay, so B is the answer for this question. C and D are happily eliminated options because this one is not treated as a merit, nor you're trying to discuss one main attribute and another attribute. So C and D are eliminated. Highlight the oddity or a strange thing or a peculiar thing. Yeah, got it. Stranjana also says the same thing. Unique, yeah, peculiar thing or a strange thing, something which is different from others, that kind of thing. Odd is something like that. Unique is something like different from others. You can treat it like that also. Odds and evens, I'm sure if you take that knowledge also, you can consider it like that. So, but here, the change that they made was not an investment which was worthy of making, because it was not creating the impact that it needs to create. So it was a low value investment within the service sector. Got it, guys? So B becomes an answer there. I think B was an easy one to decipher than worrying about A. So most people, even if might leave A as something that I did not understand and then go to B because you felt it's reasonably a possible answer. The problem is, if your answer is something which is easy to understand and the other options are difficult, there's a high chance you will make it right. But if your answer option is something that is tricky to understand, while the other options are easier to understand, there's a possibility of going wrong. That's the only difference that I would put between 120 and 170. Okay, guys, overall it's a medium to difficult passage. I would rate at least two questions minimum to be difficult ones. All the other ones are medium and time consuming. I would say 16, 17 are difficult ones. 18, 19 are easy to medium. 120 is medium to difficult. Do you agree with it? Okay, then let's move on to the next one. Sanjana, I'll come to 111 towards the end, if that's okay. Let me finish the last one and I'll come back. Okay. The healthcare economy is filled with unusual and even unique economic relations. Okay, you're talking about healthcare economy. In most sectors of economy, it is the seller who attempts to attract a potential buyer with various inducements of price and quality and utility. It is a buyer who makes the decision. Where circumstances permit the buyer no choice because there is effectively only one seller and the product is relatively important. Government usually asserts monopoly and places under price and other regulation. Neither of these conditions prevail in healthcare. So government is not able to set the price in healthcare or not able to rule out the monopoly option. So healthcare is different from other things. That's a point that you're trying to say. So what is this unique economic relation we are talking about? The doctor-patient relation is a mirror image of the ordinary relation between producer and consumer. Once an individual has chosen to see a physician, it is the physician who actually makes all significant purchasing decision, whether the patient should return next Wednesday, whether x-rays are needed, whether drugs should be prescribed. So what happens usually, what are we trying to do in this paragraph? Now, suppose I want to buy a chocolate. I go to the shop and I ask the seller to give me a chocolate. And after that, I decide, right? I am the consumer. I go to the shop and ask for a chocolate. I take a decision whether I want to buy it or I don't want to buy it. The decision is mine. I'll take a decision whether I'll buy it again next day or not. I will take a decision whether I'll want to buy a bigger chocolate or a small chocolate. Or I'll take a decision that I don't want to buy a chocolate. All the decisions are mine. But when I'm a patient and I go to a doctor, no, I have to follow what he says, especially if the case is serious. That's a simple thing. So doctor, who is actually the seller here, has a bigger impact than me as a buyer, because I'm no more a revenue maker here. So doctors are seen as revenue makers in the perspective of hospital. That is a point that we are coming up here. This is particularly significant in relation to hospital care. The physician must certify the need for hospitalization, determine the procedures to be performed, and announce when the patient may be discharged. The patient may be consulted about some of these decisions, but it is the doctor's judgments that are final. Little wonder that in the eyes of hospital, it is the physician who is real consumer. As a consequence, the medical staff represents the power center in hospital policy and decision making, not the administration. The hospital becomes an extension of the physician. The payer generally meets most of the bona fide bills generated by physician hospital, and for the most part, patient plays a passive role. Now here the patient is playing a passive role because he is not the insurance guy. The insurance guy is the one who is paying the money here. Patient is just taking the medicine. So it turns out to be the insurance guy is the payer for the money, and the doctor is the one who is prescribing all the orders here. So patient has nothing to do. In routine or minor illnesses, patients have much option to make. In serious illnesses, choices are not there. They have to follow whatever it is. We estimate about 75 to 80% of healthcare expenditures are determined by physicians, not patients. For this reason, economy measures directed at patients or general public are ineffective. So whatever policies that you're making, keeping patients or public in mind, are going to be ineffective because here the decision makers are the doctors. I hope the passage is clear, nothing difficult to understand. Everything, language is pretty much simple. Next, it can be inferred that doctors are able to determine hospital policies because it is a doctor who generates income for the hospital. Most of the patient bills are paid by insurance. If they are paid by insurance, how is doctor coming into the picture here? And hospital admission lacks the expertise to take the medical decisions. Yeah, they don't take medical decisions, but it doesn't mean that they are not having power in the hospital. His responsibility, this talks more in terms of ethics point of view. The entire passage is more about buyer seller concept. A is the answer. How do you rate this, guys? Easy question. Let me see here. 121. Oh yeah, it's an easy question. The interesting part of 121 is the number of people who attempted this came down compared to the first passage, but the number of people who made it right has increased. What do you mean? What is happening here? So people who attempted decreased, but who made it right increased. It means as it comes to the end, you're thinking, let's not do this passage. We are taking so much time on LR and let's move on to the other area. That is what is probably happening with this. Now you decide, will that be a smart decision to make? Next, so 121 is an easy question. 122. According to the author, when a doctor tells the patient to return next Wednesday, the doctor is in effect taking the advantages of patient's concern for his health. Some of you might have marked A as an answer because that is a general perspective that most people outside have about doctors asking you for visit or doctors. That is a perception that media also might have created, because even in right now scenario, people ask, okay, earlier hospitals were filled with fever, cold and all those kind of cases. What is happening to all those patients nowadays? Right? That is what media is trying to project. The thing is, when you're locked down inside your house, you're not interacting with anybody. So where will you catch that cold virus or anything else? So automatically the cases are going to come down. If you're not allowed to play outside, where will a mosquito come and bite you? So that is also going down. So nobody looks at it that angle, but people want to project it like this. So no, instructing the patient to buy more services, the entire thing is in the picture of economy, buying and selling concept. This can be my answer. Second opinion, no. Initial visit was ineffective. Never a doctor admits that. So B is the best possible answer. No doubt it's an easier choice for you to make. Author is most probably leading up to. This is something which might be a medium to difficult question. Answer is actually A, guys. He's trying to propose medical costs. A is the right answer. Some of you might have marked the answer as D. New medical treatment, happily gone. Lawsuit, happily gone. We never talked about a treatment nor a lawsuit. B and D, C are happily gone. Anybody marked answer D? Yeah, Indupriya, the only reason you might have marked because there was an example of a buyer and consumer in the passage and you got confused there. But the main idea and the main point, the entire thing, if you look at it, the point is like in the case of the hospital, the buyer, the one who is taking the decision is the doctor. And if you look at the last line, it clearly indicates about policy making. So policies that you're focusing on patients doesn't help you much because the decision maker here is the doctor. That is a point that you're taking. So the example of factory of an hospital is a limited one, but the bigger picture here is picture here is about the medical costs and more in terms of insurance and policies and all those things. The entire policy making that is driving the healthcare economy. So it's more to do with healthcare economy, guys. The first line starts about healthcare economy. The last line also talks about healthcare and the angle in which the healthcare is focusing is wrong. So it's all about healthcare, and the entire thing about cost of healthcare. So all these three things will put me on A. If I were a student, let me assume I'm not a teacher, I'm a student. B and C, I'll happily admit. The moment I see it's gone case, I'll not even break my head on it. A and D are the things that I might decide. The moment I'm confused, I'll think. Hospital versus factory, what kind of comparison? Is it page level to level comparison I'm making, or is it only in one place I made it? And what is my main point? These are things I'll look at it. So I'll go for 123A as a possible answer. Next one. Most patient, which of the following statement would the author likely to agree? Second and third is the answer choice. It's an easy one, stating from the last paragraph. I don't think there's anything big to worry about it. 124B is an answer. Clear cut one. In easy cases, not big problems, you're easy having a decision chance, but others you don't. The most important feature of a consumer, as inferred from the passage, is that consumer is the party that orders goods or services. That's the simple thing. He doesn't deliver, he is the one to make decision on ordering. Reimbursement is payment here. That here is an insurance guy, so it's a different case. Supplies goods, that's a seller here. That's not. Delivers goods or supplies goods is similar. That's the seller. B is the one that is order, that is a consumer. Reimbursement here, it's an insurance also, so I cannot read that. Answer choice here is B. Let me repeat the answers: 121A, 122B, 123A, 124B, 125B. I would say this is an easy to medium passage. You can aim to get all right also. All five can be right, or at least four can be right. But I don't give you right to make any mistake in this passage. With caution, you could have done it. The only mistake that you might have done might be in 123, guys. Others all can be easily solved. But 123 also, it was something that is not very confusing for you to avoid a mistake. So overall, if I have to say, 116 to 120 is the only set of questions that I'll put under a little difficult question and little difficult options. Rest makes sense. So let me see how many questions can we make right. So we had around 1, 2, 3, 4 passages were there, guys. Overall, we had 4 passages. The amount of time we gave for LR section in general was around 25 minutes. These 4 passages, I think max of 5 minutes you can do it. I mean, it will range from 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes for a fast one to with good accuracy. 3.5 to 5 minutes is a max range that you would take. So happily you'll finish these questions within 20 minutes for sure, with an accuracy of around like 1 wrong for passage, not more than that. Max of 1 wrong for a passage. Sometimes even that might not go wrong. So that's a possible thing that I would say in general in terms of this entire stream of questions. Okay, guys. Coming to Sanjana, your point of view of illustrate. Yeah, one more thing. So my thing is 20 is something that you made as a highest mark, but that also includes your AR part of it. So it's not just in from this area. And this one, number of questions are around. Right, we have 125 minus 106. That's the number of questions that we have here. So around 20 questions I have here. Yeah, around 20 questions I have here. So maybe 15 you should have made right from here itself, and the remaining you could have happily got from your LR section. So 15 easily you could have done right. With caution you could have made 16 also. 3 to 4 mistakes are okay. That's my analysis of the paper, guys. Coming to last question. And you know, what was your question number? Can you repeat? Any other questions, guys? Sanjana? Is it 116 or 111? 2 questions were asked, I guess. I assume it's 116. So I'm just going ahead with 116. So the reason I'm not taking C as an answer, Sanjana, as I mentioned, here the point is more in terms of when you make an investment in a particular criteria, think of it if it's going to create that impact that you're expecting it. Now C kind of, so that's more in terms of the suggestion that is made. If it's an impact creation, then definitely make it a possible change. If it's not creating that impact, don't go for it. That's a point that it is mentioned in the passage. Now C kind of says various ways of failing. Like for instance, let's take there's a statement I said, when you're doing questions in critical reasoning, be cautious. um, be cautious, that's a statement that I made. That's a general statement that I talked, and that's my paragraph about it. Versus another statement I made where I was like, okay, you can make a generalization error, you can make a circular reasoning error, you can make a what do you say, incorrect ownership error, you can make a necessary sufficient error. These four types I'm telling you the type of errors, right? So C is more like that categorization in terms of how an investment fails. An investment fails if implementation is not good. An investment fails if people did not understand it properly. An investment fails if it did not reach the customers as it expected. These are the multiple ways in which I can say an investment fails. So that is what I should be explaining there. So I would see C to be more like that answer. Okay, so hence C is not. Coming to 111, as I said, the entire focus in 111 question is about choices, having choices here. In case of A, they are in two different places. In case of B, I should treat a choice as a habit of eating at a restaurant. The choice or habit of eating a restaurant is the choice here. It is not about what food is eaten. You are treating what food is eaten as a choice. But the thing is, do they have an interest in eating at restaurant? That is a point that is being discussed. Since both have interest in eating at restaurant, there's no problem. The question is not understood in this case. Men can't mentor women. You just need to go to the paragraph here. They said men can't mentor women. Why did he say that? And the continuation point is about having less interest, fewer common interests. They don't have common interests. See, the thing is, how do you mentor people? You mentor people by talking to them. And sometimes when you're mentoring someone, you try to explain things with you apart from work, you explore more opportunities in terms of talking to them, meeting them, etc. Like let's take the example of golf. Golf is treated to be a businessman sport. It's not gully ka sport, right? And lots of many people in all the movies you see a businessman meeting another businessman at golf and taking some business decision, right? What is it? Because that turns out to be like a professional sport, because it's a businessman sport. That is their common interest. They meet there and they take it as an opportunity to discuss business and create some impact. Now if that golf is not there, one is in golf and other one is in the swimming pool, that discussion opportunity is lost. That is a point that is explained there. Got it? So that's it, guys, for today. So these are the questions that we have. And have a good day. Any more questions? Good job, guys. Whoever touched that 120 mark and all those who crossed the 16.5 mark, I'm like, good. Another 3 or 4 marks and you are like, great. And I hope your AR is good also, because that also contributes. Abdullah, I did not understand that. Have a good day, guys, and all the best. Have a good day. Assuming there are no doubts, I'm just logging off, and sorry for the intermittent disturbance here. People just asked me something, so I got distracted. Have a good day. Sanjana has a doubt. Yes, Sanjana, please tell me. Sanjana, what do you mean by logical questions now? After, I guess we finished at least 8 or 9 CR questions that CR classes that we have done, and you put me a broad question of how to solve logical questions. So if you can tell me about a special question type, I might be able to give you some strategies on that. Otherwise, it's like I would say be alert when you're reading. That's simple. Uh, are you always going wrong, Sanjana? Let me ask you something. And you know, getting a single question right? Aren't you getting a single question right, Sanjana? Tell me honestly. Is everything a zero for you? I don't think so. First, see that. First, see that improvement. First, believe that you can do it. Because some will be right. Yeah, some are right. Now, LR is all about interpretation, right? You're getting it. Now, let's ask ourselves in today's passage, how many of you did you actually think it was more to do with careful observation? How many of you did you think it was more to do with observation of the language that is written, or is it like so much of mathematical deduction I had to make in my mind? Tell me. Let's do an analysis for your own paper. Uh, if you take the first simple, let's take the first passage itself. The first question in the first passage, obviously, it's not too much on reasoning. According to me, it's more like language observation, right? Now, if you made a mistake in the first question, that is more to do with your patience. It has nothing to do with LR 106. Okay. Now, coming to 107 part of it. Very